The movie Katy Perry, A Part of Me, is a documentary feature film that traces singer, songwriter, and pop star Katy Perry's life from teen gospel singer to adult recording artist. The movie follows Katy during her 2011 international concert tour, and we learn about her road to success as well as her childhood in a strict Pentecostal preacher's home. I'm giving this message to 35 to 65-year-old women in a Christian women's club luncheon or at a spring women's luncheon in a church setting. You know, some people like sitting in the audience in life and others like being on stage. And I was always one of those kids who liked being on stage. I would create fake TV variety show programs in my living room, and I would perform with my fake microphone, and I would imagine those fake TV cameras out in front of me, and they'd be broadcasting my show all over the place. I had two memorable personas that I would perform. One was a gypsy slash flamenco dancer who was called Esmeralda. And I would dress up in a hand-me-down, old silk, flouncy green bridesmaid dress. And the other persona was when I would pretend I was Nancy Sinatra, Frank Sinatra's daughter. And she had a hit song called These Boots Were Made for Walking. And so I knew a few bars of that, the chorus, I guess, and I would put on my red rubber boots that I would wear to school as a kid, and I would prance around on that fake stage, and I would sing, These Boots Are Made for Walking. And I knew that this song was about some guy who had been very nasty to Nancy, and her boots were going to walk all over him. Now, granted, at 10 years old, I didn't know a lot about cheating men, but I did know that I enjoyed mimicking Nancy's hit song. Well, I grew up in a conservative home, and as I grew older, I learned that it was one thing to mimic Nancy Sinatra, but no good girl would emulate the Hollywood lifestyle associated with Nancy. In our family, there was no movie watching at the local movie theater. We could only watch certain television programs. There was no drinking or smoking, and I was always to dress modestly. And my mom had lived a lifestyle that she called worldly. And there was no way that she was going to let my brother and I slip into that kind of lifestyle. So these rules were to protect us from slipping into worldliness. And yet, face it, I was a creative kid. And there was more I wanted to experience outside of the tightly held framework of these rules that were a part of our home life. They were well intentioned, but I found them to be really irrational and indefensible. And not being seen as worldly meant that I had to now live by certain outward standards that I mentioned earlier, mostly defined by things I couldn't do. Being good and looking like a good girl became about performing correctly. Only these performances weren't nearly as much fun and free as prancing around on my childhood homemade stages, being creative and whimsical and dreamy and imaginative. Being free. Katy Perry is an award-winning, record-breaking pop star. And in the past year, I watched her feature documentary, Katy Perry, A Part of Me. Yes, I can now watch movies. This movie follows her on a one-year international concert tour. And I learned that she and I had a few things in common, really. We're both brunette, we both like clothes, and we were both body-piercing rebels in junior high. Only Katy Perry was much more courageous than I because she pierced her own nose. I got on a train with my junior high girlfriend, and we went to a nearby town and walked to a doctor's office that she had heard about, and we paid $5 to get our ears pierced. And of course, this was a big deal in my home because pierced ears were considered worldly, and they were a no-no. Katy and I both liked an eclectic group of friends in high school, not just one group of friends. And as I mentioned, we both liked to perform as a kid. Of course, she's made boatloads of money doing that, and I have not. And like me, she also grew up in a conservative home. And she had to learn, too, that there were certain standards that she had to live up to and conform to. So it was only natural that her first album was a gospel album because any other kind of music was not allowed in her home growing up. In fact, her brother talks about them not being able to eat Lucky Charms cereal because luck was of Lucifer or the devil in her home. And they couldn't watch the Smurfs, and they couldn't watch Alice in Wonderland or the Wizard of Oz. And all of her friends and social activities had to fit into her parents' narrow box. And she has really described her childhood, her religious childhood, as stealing from her childhood. Well, growing up, I wondered if I had to fit into that box too. Because the message was, if you look right, dress right, speak right, if you come across as a good girl, this is really what matters. And Katie found her freedom outside of that box when she became a singer and performer and wrote her own music. And she's pretty gutsy, I think, because her first #1 hit is a song called I Kissed a Girl and I Liked It. And of course, her family, her parents did not go for this. But that was her first #1 hit. And she also, she dyes her hair blue, she dyes her hair pink. She got married to a famous comedian in a Hindu ceremony in India, and she's even been called a sex symbol. So she really got out of that box. A big line in the movie is when she says to sold-out audiences, "Thank you so much for believing in my weirdness." And every time she says this, the audience goes wild. I think because so many of us wonder if we can be believed in for who we are. Is it okay just to be us? Well, a record industry executive in the movie says the star makers didn't understand Katie's clothes. They didn't understand her personality, and they didn't understand her point of view. And Katie just kept telling them, I just want to be the next Katy Perry. I don't want to be somebody else. I just want to be me. And her manager said that this part of her life, when the executives were trying to make her into the next Avril Lavigne or the next Ashley Simpson, was really the most desperate moment in her life. I wonder if you have ever thought that maybe the rest of your life was going to be about conforming to who somebody else thinks you should be. Is that what life is going to be? Conforming to others' expectations? For Katie, through the whole movie, she savors every song, every costume change, every performance in which she can make someone smile. And I wonder, do you savor every moment of your life because you feel like you're living the real you? Or is there someone out there who is trying to tell you who you should be? Maybe it's a group of people. Maybe it's the women in your neighborhood, or maybe it's your mother who still has ideas of who you should be. Maybe there's that unwritten code at your sports center where you work out or do Zumba, the local PTA group, where you just get this sense, or you actually hear from other people, here's who you need to be. You need to be this. Well, the movie about Katy Perry opens with some of her young fans and young adult fans saying things like, we all just want to blend in and be normal. But Katy tells us that it's okay to stand out. These kids who are fans of Katy Perry's are looking for someone to tell them it's okay to be you. In fact, some older women, some older moms are caught on camera, and they say, we're Katy Perry fans and we don't care how old we are. It's obvious that they connect with her message. And of course, people of all ages want to be themselves, don't they? Well, Katy Perry and I have another similarity. We are both similarly acquainted with the Bible. It was a part of each of our homes. And I didn't pick up in the movie that it's a guiding presence in Katie's life right now, but for me, I have found a comfort and an understanding in the Bible that I'm okay just as I am. And something that's really helped me to make that connection is linking to the stories of the famous women of the Bible. Women, some of whom had shady pasts, had been abused, Maybe they struggled with infertility. Women who were everything from creative to poor to rich to beautiful to widows to business leaders to immigrants, even some women who were pretty sassy. It's kind of interesting to learn that some of these women were even Jesus' ancestors. So apparently, women of all kinds are a part of his family. Well, God says that he has made all the complex parts of me. Have you ever felt complex? Like you're full of complexities that maybe you don't even understand all the time, but you would never say that to anybody else because then perhaps you might not fit into that box. Well, God says he knows everything that I think about, so he knows my frustrations about being squeezed into a mold that's not me. And he promises to guide me and give me strength and to enjoy the way that I was made with all of my complexities. And I want to experience that enjoyment as I keep growing up. I want to know that I have worth and value just because I'm me. And I need courage to do that. I still struggle with not wanting to be in the box, but feeling like I need to be in that box. I'm wondering if you would be open to God beginning to show you that your uniqueness is okay with him, and he will give you the help to live the way in which he made you. And I would love for all of us to pray together right now and ask God to help us to feel confident with who we are. Could we do that? God, will you help each of us to be confident in our uniquely created selves? Please help us to resist the boxes that others have for us that are not your boxes, and to live our best selves with your help. Amen. And I'm just thinking, as we become freer to live who God created us to be, who knows the differences that we might see in each other even a year from now. Maybe something kind of wild and unexpected, or maybe something kind of deep and very satisfying. All because we are living the way the Creator made us to be, and we're doing it with his help.